Welcome back, Camden Catholic. All right, so today what we're going to be focusing on, let me try that again. Welcome back, Honors. Today we're going to be focused on is the Mexican Revolution. Now, the reason why I broke this stuff up a little bit is because the Mexican Revolution is so long and in depth that it actually transpired while imperialism was going on, while nationalism was going on, while the Industrial Revolution was happening. So I like to save it for the very end with my honors kids because I like to go into a lot of depth with it, and I like to talk about specific little things about it, like liberalism versus conservatism and blah, 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 blah. So we finished up in class today talking about imperialism, but this is all about the Mexican Revolution. All right. So anyway, quick recap. So, as you know, social class systems in Latin American countries are really jacked up. You got the Peninsulares up top, the Creoles, mestizos, mulattoes, slaves, and natives. Now, one really quick difference, though, in Mexico is Mexicans typically were very anti-slavery. A lot of this has to do with one big fact. Write this down somewhere. Mexico, per capita and per territory, in all of the Latin American colonies, had the highest and most amount of farmable land. All right, so biggest amount of farmable land. Now, you would think that this would increase the demand for slavery, but actually, ironically enough, not so much. Because a lot of the Aztecs, remember the Aztecs were in Mexico, what is current-day Mexico City? There were over 1 million of them. So the encomienda system actually carried over, and a lot of people of Mexican descent were much more mestizo than they were mulatto. All right, so anyway, here we go. Mexico. Indians and mestizos, actually, not the Creoles, played the key role in the independence movements. The Creoles actually sided with Spain to avoid violence of lower-class rebellions. There were much, the number of mestizos in Mexico is huge, absolutely massive, because the Aztecs began to breed with the Creoles. And also, really other quick fun fact, the mestizos saw Creoles and Peninsulares as you might as well be the same friggin' thing. You're both white, you both have more money than me, and you both are taking things away from me, right? I'm working this hard for you to screw me over and pay and land rights and all this other stuff. So as far as they were concerned, the mestizos in Mexico were like, Creole, Peninsular, they're both white. All right, anyway, but the Creoles originally sided with Spain because they wanted to stay with Spain because it was the last remaining Spanish colony there, all right? So they wanted the protection. Now, that's a conservative point of view, the idea of staying with the current regime, not changing something, right? So let's keep going, though. But the first seed of an idea of a rebellion, the seed planted in the people of Mexico's mind, was actually started by a priest. He was a village priest named Miguel Hidalgo, or Padre Hidalgo, as they called him. He's a mestizo, and in 1810, he started the Mexican Revolution. He planted the seed of an idea. Now, really quickly, though, his rebellion crushed like that, all right? So after his was crushed, another padre tried to do it again. It's called La Reforma, all right? Anyway, but they tried. And the main thing is that plants a seed of an idea. The mestizo people thought to themselves, we work more than anyone else does. We don't even get to own what we work and plant and produce. We don't even get a fair salary. We don't even get, fair rights. So, the mestizos were the ones that had the idea from Padre Hidalgo that they have the right to break away. They have the right to try and kick all these Creoles and these Peninsulares out of Mexico. We want to be a country of Mexicans and mestizos, not of white folks and Peninsulares and Creoles, right? So, anyway. Now, Mexican independence is actually going to be achieved in 1821. Some of you are like, I thought you said that this was long. Well, really, really quickly, though, their Mexican Revolution was so traumatic and so tumultuous that it actually really lasted from 1810 to 1917, as you can see on this here flag right there. Now, this one says 1910, but I think in 1917, because in 1910, they were still going through a lot of different traumatic leaders and ups and downs, and you got Pancho Villa up in the north, and he's trying to so all this other stuff. I think in 1917 is a better one when the new constitution that they currently use was signed. Now, anyway, so let's keep going, though. Mexican independence was declared in 1821. In 1820, a revolution in Spain put a liberal government in power. So Mexico declared itself independent and actually put a guy in charge, and he was the king of Mexico. He was this guy. His name was Augustin Iturbide, right? So anyway, but he was actually assassinated within the first year of his reign. So in 1824, Mexican Republic was established, which broke out into a battle over Mexico's government, liberals versus conservatives. Now keep this in mind. The conservatives, they want to stay with the Catholic Church. They want to stay with Spanish power or a European power, whereas the liberals want a Mexican government and a Mexican-run, like, credo, culture, everything. They're much more nationalistic in a sense, the liberals are, whereas the conservatives wanted to stay with the Catholic Church and with another foreign power. So that is, like, right here basically is conservatives, liberal, right? Now, anyway, this guy is going to change the tide majorly, all right? Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, right? Anyway, now, he is a caudillo. Now, a caudillo, really quick, is a military ruler, much like a dictator. It's a Spanish version, or a Mexican version of a dictator, or a Spanish version of a dictator. He's liberal-ish, all right? When I say liberal-ish, I mean that he didn't start out as liberal. He started as very, very conservative. He originally wanted Spain to stay with Mexico. Now, Creole by descent, all right, but actually much more mestizo by culture, wanted them to stay with Spain originally because he was like, we'll have a bigger military, we'll have more money, we'll have more taxable income, we'll have more, all of these nice little things. However, he realized that most of the country wanted to be independent, so he actually switched sides. When he fought for independence from Spain in 1821, that's when they actually declared themselves an independent country, and the only reason they were successful is because of that revolution that was going on over there. Now, and again in 1829, though, when actually Spain tried to come back and tried to reconquer Mexico, and he was like, no. Anyway, so Santa Anna actually was president of the largest empire in the world. That's right. When Mexico was declared a republic in 1824, it was the largest empire in the world. It spanned from the top of California all the way down to what you think of as current-day Mexico today. And it went all the way over to Texas. It was huge. It was twice the size of current-day Mexico. And I don't know if you've realized or looked at a map lately, but Mexico is pretty big as it is. Now, also, other really, really cool fact. In the original version of the Mexican Constitution, it said that you can, a couple of things really quick. Number one, no slaves. They were very, very against it. They didn't like the idea that money and labor and goods being stripped away from honest working mestizos, so slavery was a big no-no for Mexican government. Also, you can't be president twice in a row. You can switch back and forth, but you can't be president twice in a row. So somebody really would tell me, how the heck was this guy president 11 different times? Some of you are like, well, maybe he like took one off and then come back and then took one off and then come back. Sort of. He would actually pay people to run for president and then pay them to step down after they got elected. He would run as their vice president. Pretty slick, right? So anyway, now, but their Mexican empire stretched from Oregon all the way down to Texas. Now, so a couple of negative things that are going to happen under Santa Anna's reign. Well, number one, the big one, was the Texas Revolt, okay? So some of y'all are saying, oh yeah, I remember learning about that. Texas was like an independent country for like 9 years and did their own thing. Well, better question is why, right? So anyway, in the 1820s, Mexico invited English-speaking settlers, Anglos, to settle Mexican territory of Texas, right? Now, so there were already people that lived in Texas as they were inviting these Anglos, or white people, into Texas as well. Now, the people that lived there were actually called Tejanos, all right? Now, Tejanos are kind of hard to explain. They're not really quite Mexican. They're not really quite American. They're a blending of mestizo and other white Americans and other places like that. They have a culture that's very, very their own, okay? So, but the Tejanos actually got together with the white people that came in, and there were 300 families of white people. So if you've got the average size of a family back then being about 5 times 3, that's over 1,000 people that they actually brought in. It's a huge, huge number. Now, so the Mexicans, though, said to them, look, 2 rules, though. You got to sign the Mexican Constitution, which will make you a Mexican citizen and no longer an American citizen, number 1. And number 2, when you come over to farm this land, we are Mexicans, no slavery, all right? And the white people were like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, we'll do that. And then Steve Austin actually, yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stephen Austin led that original 300 families into Mexico and originally said, yeah, that's fine, we won't do that. But then they started sneaking slaves over the border. So the Mexican government lashed out at them, said you have to get rid of them, and you also have to pay penalties. Well, what they didn't realize is those 300 families united with the Tejanos and wanted to break away altogether and become the Texas Republic, or the Lone Star Republic, right? And the only reason they wanted that was, again, due to the same ideals of nationalism. The Tejanos did not see themselves as Mexican. They saw themselves as Tejanos. So Santa Anna led Mexico in a war against Texas, but Texas became an independent country in 1836. Remember the Alamo! Now, that's one of the biggest battles of the Texas Revolt, but they would eventually lose. Fun fact about Santa Anna, he also lost something else in that war. He lost a leg, right? Now, some of you are like, well, how did he lose his leg? Get blown off by a cannon? No, I mean, he lost his prosthetic leg. Now, when Spain tried to reconquer Mexico in 1829, a cannonball skipped off the ground in one of the battles and blam, knocked Santa Anna's leg clean off, right? So he had a prosthetic leg, a wooden leg, right? Well, when he was actually in Illinois fighting that edge of the Texas area, he actually went to go sit down under a tree to eat his lunch. And he went down, he sat down to eat his lunch. He's minding his own business. He's alone. He's like, okay, cool. And then he took his leg off. I know that sounds weird, but like took his leg off and sat it down next to him because he wanted to let the area breathe a little bit, like give it a rest. So he takes his leg off and sits it next to him. And then all of a sudden, these Illinois regulars come up over the hill, and instead of picking his leg up and strapping it back on, he just somehow, don't ask me how, it's a very magical thing when you think about it, hopped up, literally hopped up, and then got onto his horse and left his leg behind on accident. And so the Illinois regulars, as a trophy, stole his leg, and now it's in the National History Museum in Illinois. So you can look up Santa Anna's leg is in Illinois. So anyway, really quickly though, in 1845, the U.S. is going to annex Texas. Oh, I gotta hurry. It's going to annex Texas because after they begged and pleaded to be brought in because they didn't really have a very good economy going. And then they placed the U.S. was like, wait a minute, manifest destiny. We're going to go from this coast to this coast, and we're going to take all this stuff over here. So what James K. Polk, yes, Ned's Declassified, did, he put a whole battalion of men on the border, the disputed territory between Texas and Mexico, and waited. And 11 of them actually got shot, which led to the Mexican-American War. And in 1848, that war is going to end, and U.S. gained actually its current western half. This right here, that's the disputed territory where 11 men got shot. It's pretty friggin' big. Now, but all of this, and that, these three right here were gained from the Mexican-American War that Mexico actually lost against America. Now, speaking really quickly of French rule, conservative rebels are going to plot with France to reconquer Mexico. So, now this is in the 1860s, after Mexico has lost a ton of power and a ton of land. They begged Napoleon's grandson, Napoleon III, to send his armies to Mexico and reconquer. Now, he actually is going to do it, but he needed a reason why. So, what actually was crazy, Mexicans became very prideful in themselves while they were actually the best new country, new kids on the block, right? And there was a French pastry shop in Mexico City. And there was a French citizen who ran the shop, and they were like, well, if you're not Mexican, you get out. And so the French baker said, no, I won't leave. I'll keep selling my croissants and all this other stuff. And so these liberal rebels burnt the pastry shop down. And the French government said, you owe us 200,000 pesos is a debt for that man's shop. And they were like, no, we're not paying for that. Those are rebels that did that. You can blame it on them. So Napoleon III was like, fine, we're invading. And the war was called the Pastry War, right? Now, anyway, so Cinco de Mayo, that's just one event that happened during the Pastry War. It's when the Mexicans won a small battle of Puebla against the French. But the French are going to end up winning the war, all right? So we'll go into a little bit more depth of that tomorrow in class. So I got 2 minutes left. Now, France is going to rule Mexico from 1862 to 1867 under a puppet regime, right? They put a leader in charge that would agree with nothing but what French said. His name was Maximilian I, had some epic facial hair. Now, but then a guy named Benito Juarez is going to lead the liberals on a war where they're going to recapture Mexico City and execute the puppet via firing squad. So as you can tell, the Mexican regime has been up, down, up, down, up, down. And after Benito Juarez in 1867 led that war against Mexico's own capital city and reconquered it and took it over, Mexico is going to go through a series of liberal and conservative leaders, up, down, Porfirio Diaz, and then Pancho Villa is going to lead rebels against him, and then Zapata in the south is going to lead rebels as well. They're never going to reach peace finally until 1917 when they actually wrote a brand new constitution. So, as you can see, Mexico is very, very different. They were controlled by Spain, and then they were controlled by France, and they were controlled by these people and that people, and then we gained a huge amount of territory from them. But that is the Mexican Revolution in a nutshell. So, I will check this flip tomorrow. Y'all have a great evening, Camden Catholic. We're going to do a little bit of review action with the study guide tomorrow. Bang, bang. And then we're going to have your test on Thursday. So, enjoy yourselves. See y'all then.